Thank you, Mr. Council President. In our regular weekly meeting, Chief Herner had informed me that we had lost a resident to cardiac arrest. That happened on, I believe, February 4th, and the widow of the gentleman who passed away had talked to Chief Herner and was asking questions about response time and the whole process of EMS arriving and providing service.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come and speak with you today. I want to preface what I'm going to say by saying that I've always taken great comfort in the fact that I live so close to the fire station, and I knew if I ever needed them, that they would be there quickly. It's exactly 1 mile from my driveway to the station. The night of February 7th, my husband and I were watching Shark Tank. He had fast-forwarded through the commercials and went too far. I asked him to back it up. I wanted to see who got the deal. He was on the love seat, and I was on the couch, and he tossed me the remote, and he said, "Here, you do it. You're better at it than I am." And as I was rewinding, I heard him gasp, and I looked over, and his whole body was writhing and gasping. He gasped 3 times, and his whole body was just wrenching and writhing. And I ran over to him, and I felt for a pulse and for respirations, and there was nothing. His face was pale, and his tongue was blue. So on the night of February 7th, I called 911 at 8:42. 911 did not dispatch Avon Lake Rescue until 1 minute and 8 seconds into my call. And I don't understand why she didn't do it sooner. That's way too long. I called from a landline, so the address should have been on her screen. And I told her my address. I told her my situation. She knew everything she needed to know in like the first 10 seconds. Then another 58 seconds lapsed before 911 alerted Sheffield Lake. That's 2 minutes and 6 seconds wasted. 911 didn't say that he was in full arrest for 4 minutes and 18 seconds. Why? I don't understand that. About the time the full arrest alert went out, I called the Avon Lake Police Department back for the second time begging for help. And I couldn't understand what was taking so long. Where was my help? And that's when the officer told me I was waiting for Sheffield Lake. It took 9 minutes and 2 seconds from when I called 911 for a single paramedic to arrive at my house. That is when I looked out the front door and saw the SUV with the lights on the top that I thought was a policeman parked in my neighbor's tree lawn. He wasn't a policeman, he was an Avon Lake paramedic. And he's the one that came in and took over compressions for Alessia. But it took him 9 minutes and 2 seconds to get there. I had a timeline. Assistant Chief John Rogers printed a 911 timeline for me. That's how I know how long all this took. So it took Sheffield Lake 12 minutes and 2 seconds to get to my house from the time I called 911. Add another minute or so to get in the house and get set up, and it was roughly 13 minutes, give or take. He was severely brain damaged from lack of blood to the brain for so long. The ICU doctor told us you have a maximum of 6 minutes to restore that heartbeat and blood flow to the brain before severe brain damage occurs. We were way beyond that. The ICU doctor said his brain was like that of a drowning victim. We chose to pull everything and let nature take its course. There were only 5 paramedics on station the night that I needed them. Only 5 for our entire city. That's unacceptable. 5 guys, 2 squads, and none for me. I later learned that I was the 3rd caller. Both of the Avon Lake squads were on other calls, one with a fall victim, the other transporting a patient to St. John West Shore Hospital. That's why I had to wait for Sheffield Lake for mutual aid. Let's talk about mutual aid for a minute. It will never be effective for a case like mine. There's no way another city can get into our city and to someone's house in time to save their life. On December 5th, 2017, 2 months before my husband's death, Chief Herner gave a safety and staffing presentation to council. I watched the video, and in it, the chief said his most important resource is personnel. Equipment doesn't matter if you don't have the personnel to operate it. He also said, permanent brain damage and death can occur in 4 to 6 minutes after cardiac arrest, so time is essential and every minute counts when it comes to survival. Truer words were never spoken. He also pointed out, in 2008, a study was done from an outside source, paid for by the city, and the recommendations were personnel should be added to make all shifts 9-person shifts by 2010 and 10-man shifts by 2013. Until this year, only 1 person had been added to the department in the last 20 years. In February, council approved the hiring of paramedic Joseph Harder And as a result of the chief's staffing presentation, council has approved the hiring of 2 more paramedic firefighters to be in place sometime in July. That will bring us to 3 9-man shifts, as was recommended to be in place by 2010. So we are at least 8 years late, but I applaud these efforts, but we can't stop here. I'm encouraged to see some new faces on council, and I hope you are eager to work with Chief Herner to meet his needs. We must get the shifts up to 10 men, as was recommended to be done by 2013. We're still late. My goal is to shine a light so brightly on this issue that it can no longer be ignored. Nothing can be done to bring back my husband, but let's make sure that we have the necessary resources to save your spouse or loved one.
The first is the municipal utilities board salaries.
I was just looking at some of the numbers, and the pay increase in 2016, and I know these are smaller numbers, but it was 140% increase. And that kind of set me back on my heels a little bit. And that 3 years later, looking for another increase. So I guess looking at the numbers that I see, I have some concerns based on what they've gotten in the not too distant past. I also know that the Avon Lake Municipal Utilities is kind of a different breed. And I reached out to the, I believe they call it Public Affairs Board from Bryan, Ohio, that has a similar setup. And to be honest, their setup, I think, is more work because they actually have, they actually generate and distribute electricity, as well as they are a cable and internet provider, as well as having the distribution and treatment of water. They compensate their board $250 a meeting, and if we were to go by that, that would roughly be $6,000 a year for the Board of Municipal Utilities. And right now, they're getting $7,200 a year. So I guess unless something's presented showing that their workload is increased, the number of meetings increased, I know things have changed over there, but do you have any information on that?
I think they're compensated well right now for the amount of work that they do. I think that we and them should not be voting on our own raises. If there's any raise from them or council, I'll be voting no on either one in my time here. I think that it seems to me that they keep talking about the pension. That's the sole reason why they're doing this, and they just got a big hefty raise, recently here. I don't agree with it. I just don't feel good about voting. I know that by the charter, is supposed to fix their salaries, but any raise in general, I'd put out to the public to let them be the person that decides whether or not we get raises. I don't feel comfortable with doing this.
All right, both of these items are going to be relating to 2 items that were passed out of the last safety committee meeting, 2 separate pieces of legislation, one which would be a smoking ban in city parks to include city beaches. The second would be a smoking ban on all municipal campuses with the exceptions of the rights-of-way, which would be the streets, sidewalks, and tree lawns.
I wanted to get out, we are posting for the planning commission openings. We sent out the advertisement, it'll be out this week. We'll possibly have 2 openings there, and so the deadline for that will be May 18th. So if you know of anybody, make sure they get the submissions in to Ms. Rossmarin. And I just want to make a quick announcement. The Avon Lake Community Council voted on the Citizen and Projects of the Year. Citizen of the Year is Sandra Gurhan. Sandra, as many of you know, is with the Heritage Avon Lake, and she's done a number of different things in the community with True North Cultural Arts and the Good Neighbor Thrift Shop, United Church of Christ Board of Stewards. She's also with Habitat for Humanity, and has also been actively involved with the MGP ticket sales and operation for a number of different years, and serves as a treasurer for the Heritage. So she is the Citizen of the Year. She was nominated by 2 different individuals. And the Project of the Year, pretty unusual projects. The first project is from County Field of Lovestray for Whitey, the piebald deer preservation is the first project that was voted on. And the second project that was voted on was the Valentine Fish Fry that the Avon Lake Boat Club does for residents at Beach Park Towers, where they serve about 150 dinners for those, and they've been doing it for over the past 30 years in the community. So congratulations to both of them. The meal, the dinner that we honor them at will be with the Kiwanis, and that'll be on May 17th